What is up, y'all? It's Rai Morimoto here, and this is our show, Living Better. Welcome to a happier and healthier you. And today I have a very special story. This is a personal story, and it's how I turned my darkest times into love and happiness. And, this is a personal story for me on self-shame, guilt, depression, and in Hawaii, of all places. Hawaii, you're supposed to be having fun. So stay tuned on how these two opposite things can come to. And what I want to preface this with saying is that, this time in my life, I did work on this with a therapist. I did have help. So don't feel like you have to just do everything yourself, white knuckle it, get through it, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. No, I truly believe you should get support if you need it, and that's the best way to recovery. So the main point I want you to take away from today, right, is what is the stories we're telling ourselves in our mind? The thought narratives that we tell ourselves in our head have a huge impact on our emotional health and wellness, right? Many people face struggles, shame, depression, anxiety, stress, whatever it may be. And I will be honest that during this time, I did get diagnosed with PTSD in this story. And through a therapist, he helped me, he diagnosed me, and was helping me through this time. But where I want to start this story is back in 2016. This is where it kind of all started. I had a friend, he ran away, and he went missing for a year. And, after a year, his body washed up on shore, and the police, they told us he was deceased. We don't have much information beyond that. And, I can say that over the years, I really blamed myself for him running away and, him passing away. And I told myself things like, I wasn't a good friend. I should have been there for them. You're the reason he ran away. Things like that, right? And I would torture myself through these things. I wasn't even telling anyone. I was just doing it all in my own head. And I would say, this guy was like a brother to me. So I was really putting myself down. I lived with him for a while, and I just really felt like I was not a good enough friend, and it was all my fault. And I did this to myself for years. So 2016, 17, 18, all the way to 2020, then I found out a friend decided to end his own life. And, I wasn't as close to this friend as the other one. The other one was really like my brother, but I was close to that group of friends that he lived with. And I can say that I saw how it affected them. And I took on that emotional burden too. I started to say things like, well, you could have helped them out. You've been through this experience. You need to be better. You need to be a better friend. And I was still silently in my head blaming myself for everything. And I can say that this continued on, right, for even more years. And everything came to a boiling point in 2023. Okay. During 2023, I heard another friend ended himself. And at this point, I was having shame attacks every day, like every hour. It got so bad that it was happening like every minute, every 30 seconds. I was timing it on phones and timers, and it got really bad. It got so bad that I started to have thoughts of self-harm, right? I was being nasty with people around me. You suck. Like, you're not there for me. You don't know what I'm going through. And then I started to hurt myself, to be honest. I'm not proud of it, but I was banging my head into walls, hitting my head against walls. I was cutting myself and doing a lot of nasty, bad things. And, my girlfriend at the time, she's now my wife, but she really encouraged me to try to get into therapy. And I did everything I could to refuse it. I said, no, I don't want to go. I dragged my feet. But I did eventually get into therapy. And I would say, things got a little bit better, but I was still in that darkness. I was still shaming myself. I was still in that negativity. And I can say that, at the lowest of my low, and it sounds crazy, but in a beautiful place like this, like Hawaii, I was in my darkest times, right? I was on vacation. So I went on vacation to Hawaii with my family, my girlfriend at the time, and I saw everybody as my enemy. Like, why are they asking me this? Why are they doing that? They don't understand me. And I was telling myself, everyone else around me doesn't understand me. They're failing me, right? And so a few days of vacation goes by, and then one day on vacation. My wife and I, we went out to the beach having some fun, and I ended up not proud of it, but saying some harsh jokes and laughing, making fun of her. And she said, "Hey, this is crossing the line. This is not okay. And you're hurting my feelings right now." It's something inside me in that moment, it snapped. Something snapped inside me, in my head. Those thoughts started to grow louder, more aggressive, and really dark, saying things like, "No one cares about you. Even your girlfriend and family don't like you. No one wants you around. No one wants you here. So, what you need to do, Ryan, you need to go and live out life like your friend. The only way you'll find peace is to swim out like he did, and there you will find your peace." And so, when no one was looking, I ran away. I took a moment when nobody was paying attention, and I just ran. And it was complete chaos inside my head. There was a small voice saying, like, "Love yourself, like, you'll be okay." But it was drowned out by that really dark, nasty energy told myself. And it was just all negative thoughts. It was chaos. I was walking to the beach, and luckily, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, she decided to get in the car and just drive around. And, she drove around and she found me, and I tried to run away. I still tried to run, and I don't know what I was thinking, obviously, at the time, but besides darkness. But by the grace of her and my family, she brought me back to my family, and I just had a mental breakdown. I wasn't sharing anything with them, and I finally came clean on what I was going through. They helped me through that breakdown, and I'm eternally grateful, because it was not good. It was the darkest of the dark. And now I'm still here, right? And I can't say I was magically healed by one trick, one moment. It took multiple therapists. It took a lot of work internally. And I can say that I got through it. I still have bad thoughts. I still have negative thoughts, but I still get through it, right? And this is what I want to share with you today, right? What I want to share with you, I want to make this picture big, because we all go through these things, right? We all go through these thoughts of, how could this happen to me? If only I had this. I should have been this. I should have done that, right? The main point being is that the way to heal is becoming aware of these thought patterns. A bad thought can come in, right? But what you do with it, do you challenge it and correct it, right? And can you forgive yourself for these thoughts instead of dwelling in shame like I was doing, right? So if you take one thing away from today, just one thing, right? The narratives we tell ourselves in our head, the thoughts we ruminate on, they have a direct impact on our emotional health and well-being. We can become aware of these things. We have the power to go from darkness, from shame, to love and grace, right? And I have 3 resources that I want to share with you today on how it helped me, so that maybe it could help you. So let's get into it, all right? So the first resource being The Mastery of Love. It's a book I read by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I would say that this author, he really hones into and he emphasizes how fear-based beliefs, resentments, assumptions, they can cause us to suffer more, right? We don't need to do that. He says that, how we can really heal our emotional wounds, how we can really heal is to dive into love, right? Dive into these things rather than sitting in that emotional hurt and those emotional wounds to get back at people or make ourselves feel worse. So when I say emotional wounds, right, what I want you to see is, let's blow this picture up, right? Is let's think of it like a physical wound. You bump your knee, you hurt your knee, you scrape your elbow, you physically hurt. Your body physically hurts. Same thing to your heart, same thing emotionally. If you get in a fight with someone, say nasty things or hear nasty things, you can have emotional wounds that can affect you. So let's paint a picture. Let's create a situation, right, that may be true to us all. We all work, or a lot of us, right? And let's say you're in a workplace and you have a manager, you and another person are working on a project together, and your manager comes in one day and it just starts yelling at you both, like, "You guys failed the project. You didn't hit your deadlines. You didn't hit your goals. You should have done this. You should have been better. Now we're all failing because of you." and your manager walks out. That can create an emotional wound, right? And so now you and your coworker are just sitting in that office looking at each other and are like, dang, what's going on? And your coworker says to you, this happened because you're stupid. You are dumb and you didn't get this done. And so now you're feeling some type of way and you can say something nasty back. You're lazy. That's why this didn't go well. So if we take a step back here, right, and we really look at our emotional wounds, what's going on here, right? So we first had an emotional wound because the boss said something, the manager said something, and you both are sitting in resentment or anger, whatever it is, and now you guys gave each other emotional wounds. So now, just like hitting one elbow, bruising it, it's like breaking the left arm now, or vice versa. You have two emotional wounds now, and they both can be causing you pain, right? So at that point, maybe every time your manager or your coworker comes back in, you just want to dish that pain right back at these people. But regardless of who messed up on this project, right? Regardless of what happened, we can now think in this terms, right? The narratives that we're telling ourselves in our head about other people, about situations, can build and fester these shame, negative emotions, guilt, resentments, and it just makes us get worse and feel worse and say things we don't mean. And why does this really happen, right? Why? And I'll say it's because we start to believe these narratives in our head, even if you didn't believe the other person is truly stupid, right? Because you feel pain and you're thinking this over and over again, it just makes it worse, right? And so this can lead to something that I want to blow this up for effect, show this in a bigger picture, right? Is that we can dish this emotional poison, this emotional negativity, this hurt to other people. Just like in this picture, this guy yelling at his wife or yelling at this woman, right? We can end up building up resentment and sending that negative energy to other people, right? Because they wronged us, we want to get back at them, right? Just like when you're a kid, somebody pushes you on the playground, and you feel embarrassed, hurt, or whatever, and you want to push them back. Same thing with emotional hurts, emotional wounds, emotional poison. The next time there's an opportunity, boom, we want to push them back. We want to call them stupid. We want to dish that back because we want to get even or whatever we are feeling, right? And not only can this happen between two people, like this guy and this girl here, but it can happen within ourselves. And I want to use me as an example, my story as an example, right? I was emotionally hurt when my friend ran away and I found out that he passed away. And I couldn't blame anybody else. I had these emotional wounds, so I started to blame myself, right? It's your fault. You weren't there for him. And so what does this all mean, right? It means you have an ultimate choice. You have the choice whether to heal your wounds or dish that poison back. You don't have to cause suffering. You don't have to cause others to suffer. If you're aware you have emotional wounds, you're aware of these things, you can heal rather than just dish that poison back, right? And so another way I look at this, right? Another resource to give you is a book called You Can't Make Me Angry. It's by Dr. Paul O, right? And Dr. Paul, he says in this book, right? He says people, circumstances, they don't make us angry. We make ourselves angry. It's kind of weird, right? But he says you must accept personal responsibility for your feelings and your actions, your emotional state. And I know it may sound extreme, like he called me stupid, so like I should feel angry. But if you really think about it, if you can control, you know, how you feel, what you're thinking, and give yourself that accountability and emotional responsibility, you can lean into more peace and happiness. This is the real answer to more happiness and peace in our life, right? That's why I emphasize the narrative that we tell ourselves in our head, our thoughts, they have a huge impact on our emotional state. It's the most important thing, right? Because we can choose to blame others for everything, blame the circumstance. I feel angry because he calls me stupid. Or we can choose to not have our feelings in our life controlled by anyone other than myself. And this is the concept of emotional independence. And what I want you to really soak in here with this picture, right, is we may be chained down by past memories, things that happen, how we feel about other people, right? But can we break those shackles free, right? Can we really be emotionally independent? And what does that mean? It means other people are no longer responsible for how I feel. It means that I choose to get angry because you told me I'm stupid. It means I choose to blame other people for my circumstances, my anger, instead of being emotionally independent, instead of being responsible. I'm letting your words control me. But instead, if we choose our own emotional responsibility over blaming others, our emotional responsibility over blaming others, right? That can benefit our emotional health. That can benefit our communication and our relationships with other people. And I'm no saint, right? I'm no saint. I did this too, right? I was blaming other people during, this story of going to Hawaii. Every emotional flare up, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's your fault. It's not me, right? It's because you said this. It's because you did that. That's why I'm mad, right? And I was trying to make other people feel as bad as I felt about myself. I was not willing to accept my own thoughts, my own actions, my own feelings. And from this book, right, we can understand that we can take responsibility for our own emotions. We can correct the narrative in our head. We can think better. We can be happier. We can be healthier, right? And some techniques, some tips from this book that really impacted me, right, is I would say you can't let other people's negativity into you. You cannot accept other people's poison. Some people, they just may be stuck in a negative mindset. They may be stuck in pain, and you may want to say something worse back, right? But instead of escalating that situation, right? Just like in this picture here, if people are yelling at you, calling you names or whatever, you can choose not to join them. Instead of escalating and yelling back, you can choose your inner peace. If someone calls you stupid, you can say, okay, that hurt. I don't accept that, and I should not be talked to like this. Let's talk again later when things have calmed down, right? You can choose to keep your own peace. And sometimes we try to argue right from wrong. Your perspective is right, you're wrong, whatever it is. But sometimes you just have to accept a fact that you disagree with another person, another person's beliefs, their way of life, but you can choose not to dish that poison back and just accept your differences, right? You can accept the way that they're choosing to live. And if we look at this for a second, right? You can have disagreements, you can feel some type of way, but you can always try to work things out, right? Kind of like this picture here. You may not agree, you may have chaotic energy, but you can choose to accept differences and try to work things out. You can accept the fact that some people think it's okay to just be angry and say nasty things to you if they feel hurt, but you don't have to accept that, right? You can just accept that you disagree with their way of life. I'm not going to do this. I don't accept you treating me this way. And we just disagree that this is okay behavior. You just have to accept that you're different, right? And finally, from this book, right, prioritize your happiness. Dr. Paul really emphasizes you need to prioritize your emotional well-being, your serenity over your resentments, right? What do you value more? Do you value sitting in your resentment, sitting in your negativity, calling other people names? Or do you value your serenity, your peace, your happiness? Do you value getting in the last word? Because you said I'm stupid, I'm gonna call you stupid back. Or can you prioritize being emotionally healthy, not dishing poison, living a better way? Choose to prioritize your peace, your happiness over resentments, shame, blame, anger, whatever it may be. And so to sum up, you can't make me angry, right? It's up to us. We have to take responsibility for our own emotions, right? You can choose to mend your emotional wounds. You can prioritize your health and happiness over anger, right? You can choose to forgive yourself for things that you've thought about, things that have happened, things that you've said. You can choose to forgive yourself rather than shame yourself or dwell in this negativity. And this kind of brings me now to my final resource for you, a forgiveness journal. I'm talking a lot about forgiveness, but what really is that, right? Well, forgiveness, when we look at it from this perspective, a forgiveness journal is a way for you to really digest what's going on and how you feel about things and how you can live better. And this was introduced to me a few years ago. I forgot the exact year, but a friend named Mitchell, he showed me this technique, and just know it's a powerful tool, right? And no, you don't have to do this alone. I did some forgiveness journaling with a therapist. So again, I just want to encourage you that if you need support, get it. There's no shame in support. The more support you have around you, the better. But this is a powerful tool. So let's get into it, right? And so what I really want to show you here, what I want to kind of highlight is that step one is going to be a memory dive. You have a memory that may be charged up emotions, and you need to get it out. You need to understand it rather than having pushed it down or not having a clear understanding, but just the feelings, right? So let's walk through step one with you, right? So I always date my journals, January 1st, 2024, right? And this is what was going on for me, right? I remember in 2016, my friend ran away and I blamed myself. I remember shaming myself that I made fun of him before he left. I remember telling myself that I didn't deserve to have any friends. And I remember saying to myself that I should have been a better friend. So now I got all these memories out on paper, right? And so what is the next step? The next step is to lean into forgiveness. And this is the part where you declare what you need to forgive yourself for, right? Any situations, any thoughts that you've had in the past, and really just connect. And even though this is all typed out, I do recommend writing things down. It for some reason just helps you process things better, and then actually say it out loud. Don't just write it down and throw it away or put it on a journal and tuck it away. Say this out loud to yourself. Really sit in it so you can process things. And this is an example of the same situation, right? So I forgive myself that I accepted and allowed myself to shame and guilt trip myself when my friend ran away. I forgive myself that I accepted and allowed myself to purposely make myself feel bad in hopes to repent. And I forgive myself that I accepted and allowed myself to blame myself daily. I forgive myself that I accepted and allowed myself to resent myself. This is powerful stuff here, right? This is really where the healing comes into play, because a lot of it comes from blaming others or blaming ourselves. And so once we get through this part of things, we can move to step three, which is realizations, okay? And realizations are the realities or the new truths that you can take from this journal. So in this situation, these are the new truths I found for myself, right? I realized that each person is in control of his or her own actions. I realized that shaming myself is a choice, and I was choosing to harm myself to cope. I realized that I have no control over other people or their actions. I realized that I prioritized pride and my self-resentments over my own well-being. And these things may be difficult to really say out loud. It may be difficult to process, but it really does help you get then to a new way of living, a way to live better. And that is your commitments. These are the new things that you are choosing to live by, the newfound actions or principles that you can choose to live by instead of dwelling in that shame, resentment, whatever it may be, talking nasty. Instead of doing those things, you make new commitments, right? So I commit to prioritizing my well-being over my pride and resentments. I commit to doing more self-reflection, more journaling when I feel I am blaming myself with shame or guilt. And this can be hard, right? Things may come up again. You may have to journal on the same exact things again. But the important thing is that these newfound commitments, you take the action to live by. So the next time someone calls me stupid and I feel bad, I take a pause, right? And I say, I can't prioritize my pride. I'm going to prioritize my well-being. Hey, that was not okay to say. I'm gonna take a step back. We'll talk later, right? Then I go, and whether you're gonna do prayer, meditation, journaling, whatever it is, I committed to doing more journaling, more forgiveness journaling when I'm blaming myself or I feel some type of way. And as I wrap this up, I want to share something with you, right? Things can happen in life that bring a lot of anxiety, uncertainty, and I want you to choose your health. I want you to choose you. I believe that we all can prioritize our own emotional well-being over negativity, our peace and serenity above our resentments and anger. So next time, will you please choose your health and happiness over your resentments to live better? And some people may say, right, let's blow this up for effect. Let's show this in its true fashion. Some people say, and I even said this myself, just push down your emotions, block them out, go numb to it until it passes or you forget about it. La, 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 I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to feel. But from my experience, when I blocked that out, in 2016, just year over year, sure, I went a few years, but it got worse, right? I started to compile my shame. Things just got worse for me. So to disprove this and give the counter to that, I want you to look at things like the glass half empty or glass half full, right? What can you take from this? Can you choose to see the glass half full? And let's look at it from this point of view, right? Let's look at this glass and sit in whatever may be going on in your life. Are you going to choose to see it full, or are you going to choose to see it half empty? And when we make these choices, when we start really challenging ourselves, I want to leave you with this. This is the last thing, okay? What is the best and worst case scenario of looking at things through the lens of your emotional health? What is the worst case scenario if you look at things from prioritizing your emotional health? Sure, things may happen. You may feel bad about something. You may have shame. But you sit through this pain, you accept it, yet you still know you're in charge of your own life and your own emotions. But what's the best case scenario? What's the best thing that could happen to you? You live in more happiness. You live with the glass half full, and you choose you. You choose to not let the shame or the darkness in. And that's what I have for you today. I appreciate you all. Hopefully this helped you. Comment below if you have any questions or thoughts. Share this with a friend that you may think could benefit. Like this, subscribe for more. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.